since I have been presented already 2 times in this conference, you don't need my presentation again, and neither from myself. What I am going to do now is to try to convince you about the possibility of curing, not only treating, but also curing type 2 diabetes. This is something that has not only one single approach, but more than one. Actually, some months ago, it has been considered for the first time that type 2 diabetes could be cured by bariatric surgery, as has been already demonstrated. And until now, since 1921, in which insulin was discovered by Banting and Best, type 2 diabetes has been, like type 1, has been always treated but never cured. I will show you now some data from our laboratory that open a new field in this area. You all know that beta cells in the pancreas are responsible for the production of insulin. You can see here that in the islets of Langerhans, beta cells produce insulin, and that this insulin is not only there to reduce blood levels of glucose, but also to allow glucose to enter in the fat cells or in the muscle cells. And the way by which beta cells are controlling the secretion of insulin is that they control the amount of glucose present in the blood through a glucose sensor that is GLUT2, is a glucose transporter 2, and this glucose enters in the beta cells, is phosphorylated and produces ATP, and this ATP closes potassium channel, ATP sensitive. Then potassium is increased inside of the cell and opens a voltage-gated calcium channel. Calcium enters the cell, and calcium is the responsible for the release of insulin from the storage granules. Insulin, you know very well how is the structure of the molecule, and the mechanism of action of insulin is also interesting because acting on a dimerized receptor, insulin is doing 3 different things. One is the expression of genes and growth regulation, and the second is the utilization of glucose for glycogen or lipid or protein synthesis, and the third is to move GLUT4 in some tissues, like for example I said before, fat cells or muscle cells. GLUT4 is a glucose transporter that is located inside of the muscle or fat cells, and under the influence of insulin, this glucose transporter is moving to the surface of the cell and acts as a glucose transporter, allowing glucose to enter into the cells. What we know also is that fat, and especially visceral fat, is a very powerful endocrine organ that is having a big influence not only on control of appetite and energy balance, but also on different areas like hemostasis, angiogenesis, inflammation and acute phase response, lipidic metabolism, arterial pressure, sensibility to insulin, and immunity. And this particular area, sensibility to insulin, you all know that the problem of diabetes type 2 is not actually to get a reduction in the production of insulin, at least at the very beginning, but the appearance of insulin resistance. And this insulin resistance is related to visceral fat, especially, that is producing for example, leptin, MCP1, TNF-alpha, interleukin-6, and gets the increase in this visceral fat, also a reduction in adiponectin. And all those are playing a very important role in increasing the resistance to insulin. Actually, so as I said, adipose tissue is producing a lot of adipokines and other substances that all play a very important role in this area. And the important thing is to know that when insulin resistance starts, what the first thing that happens is that insulin has more difficulties in exerting its action. So what happens is that the beta cell starts to produce more insulin. And for a certain period of time, can last years, you can maintain a normal blood glucose, but with higher levels of insulin. But there is a moment in which the beta cells are not more able to continue producing higher amounts of insulin. And why? Because they are suffering from oxidative stress and inflammation. So they start to reduce the amount of insulin, and this is associated with an increase in the blood levels of glucose. So the substances that are associated with the insulin resistance are NF-kappa B, AP1, the reactive oxygen species, IKB, ECR, that normally all those elements are suppressed by insulin. So we have the problem not only of having insulin resistance, but also that the pancreas is in a very difficult situation in order to produce the amounts of insulin that are needed to overcome the problem of the resistance. And here I will show you the data of our laboratory, in which we have been using a model of senescence-prone mouse, that is the SAMP8, this one. And for example, you see that in young animals, the amount of insulin present in plasma is 4.7, and the amount of insulin present in the pancreas is 0.28 for a normal level of glucose and a normal OMA index. But when the animal gets old, and in this particular animal, they need only 10 months to get very old, you see that the amount of insulin has increased and in plasma, because there is already resistance for it, and the amount of insulin goes up in the plasma. But the amount of insulin in the pancreas actually has been reduced because the pancreas is working under forced conditions. Glucose levels remain normal, but OMA index has become 3 times as high. So this is showing us that actually these levels of elevated plasma insulin, reduced pancreatic insulin, and increased OMA index are telling us that those mice are already on a first step into getting diabetes type 2. This the controls. On the contrary, also old animals remain with normal levels of insulin. And what have been done is to treat those animals with melatonin. Melatonin is a very powerful antioxidant and also anti-inflammatory agent. And what we see is that by treating old mice with melatonin for 1 month, you get, as you can see here, a reduction in the plasma levels of insulin from nearly 15 to 4.6. You get an increase in the amount of insulin produced by the pancreas, and you get a normalization of the OMA index. This is to say that what we have done with the administration of melatonin is first to reduce insulin resistance, and second, to reduce also the oxidative stress at the level of the pancreas, so that this pancreas is again able to produce higher amounts of insulin. So what happens normally is, as I told before, that when resistance to insulin starts to occur, the first thing that the animal or the human does is to increase the secretion of insulin. And for a certain period of time, glucose remains normal. Only after a certain period of time of maintaining the high levels of insulin in plasma, the beta cell is no more able to continue producing those levels and starts to produce less amounts. And it's in this situation that you have first an increase in postprandial glucose levels, and then also an increase in basal levels of glucose. The three different things that are important at the levels of the pancreas is cellular proliferation of the beta cell, survival of the cells, and differentiation. So what we have done is to investigate all these three things together with the problems of oxidative stress, apoptosis, and inflammation. And what we have seen is, for example, that oxidative stress, you see that the levels of nitric oxide in the old animal, in the pancreas, are very high, as well as the levels of hemoxygenase 1. Both things are telling us that the pancreas is suffering from oxidative stress. When I treat with melatonin, I get a very important reduction, both of nitric oxide, inducible nitric oxide synthase, and also of hemoxygenase 1. And the total amount of nitric oxide is also increased when I give in the old animal, and is reduced when I give melatonin. And other ways of measuring oxidative stress is to measure also the antioxidants. And in this case, superoxide dismutase or glutathione peroxidase are reduced in the old animals, and when I give melatonin, they are restored. Especially you can see here the big reduction in glutathione peroxidase and the recovery after the administration of insulin. And also the reduction in glutathione reductase and the recovery after the administration of melatonin. And we can measure also glutathione S-transferase, that is also reduced, and you see that is recovered by the administration of melatonin. And in the case of inflammation, we have been measuring interleukin-1 beta, that is increased in the pancreas of the animals, and TNF-alpha, both are very markedly increased. And when you give melatonin here, at two different dosages, you get a very important reduction. So you are reducing substances that play a role both in the resistance to insulin and also that are playing a role inside of the pancreas, reducing the ability of the beta cell to produce enough insulin. And also in the case of inflammation, NF-kappa B, that is a very powerful inflammation stimulator, is increased in these animals, as well as different other types of NF-kappa-B, and all of them are reduced when given melatonin. So, again, you are here seeing that melatonin is a very powerful antioxidant and inflammatory agent, working both reducing insulin resistance and reducing ameliorating the beta cell capability to produce more insulin. We are also measuring the genes that play a role in apoptosis, and you see that BCL2, that is protecting the cells from apoptosis, is getting reduced with age in the same way as XIAP, X-linked inhibitor of apoptosis. And whereas the promoters of apoptosis, like BAD or BAX, are increased in the animal. So when treated with melatonin, you get a restoration of the BCL2 or XIAP, whereas you get a reduction in BAX or BAD. So, actually, what we have seen is that resistance to insulin is related to obesity. Also, free fatty acids released from fat are playing a role, but also to inflammatory disease, TNF-alpha, NF-kappa-B, interleukin, and this is giving rise to hyperinsulinemia. But we have also oxidative stress in the beta cell that is leading to a reduction in insulin synthesis, and after a certain period of time, there will be a development of diabetes type 2. But also other comorbidities like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, or cardiovascular disease. Taking into account that insulin resistance is a consequence of oxidative stress and inflammation, and those are responsible for the deterioration of endocrine pancreas through the increase of apoptosis of beta cells, and this is leading to diabetes type 2, we are suggesting to start the treatment of a patient when insulin resistance is detected, also if glucose levels are still normal, because glucose levels are still normal, but the patient is already suffering from this insulin resistance and is already suffering from the oxidative stress at the level of the pancreas. So, to block the evolution towards type 2 diabetes, and the sequence we are suggesting to use is, of course, like has been always said, to stimulate the patient to do some exercise, to get a weight reduction, but then we start giving melatonin and sometimes also metformin in order to reduce insulin resistance, and all those things, when given before the development of type 2 diabetes, can prevent actually the appearance of the disease. Thank you very much. I am now prepared to answer questions if there are some. Yes.
Doctor, I'd just like to know what level of fasting insulin would be your basis for considering presence of insulin resistance.
This is different in the different laboratories, but your laboratory will tell you if the levels of fasting insulin are normal or not. Normally, the levels are varying according to the different laboratories to a normal of 20, whereas normal levels are about 5 till 10. And when you get over 20 or 25, this is showing already that you have an insulin resistance. The best thing is to ask the laboratory to give the HOMA index of the patient, that is relating insulin levels to plasma levels of glucose.
Thank you very much for this pioneer work. My question is, could you elaborate
about the molecular basis function of melatonin? Naturally, melatonin is well known since the 90s. There are many publications that is in a position to act both directly on free radicals, as a free radical scavenger, but also stimulating endogenous antioxidants, like I have shown here, like superoxide dismutase or catalase. So, and glutathione peroxidase and reductase. So by so doing, is in a position to reduce oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is coupled to inflammation. You have seen that there is an increase in FKB, in TNF-alpha, in interleukin-1, and all those substances are also lowered by the administration of melatonin. And this was well known, but in the case that is here, important thing is that when applied to the pancreas, it is working like in other organs was shown before.
Do you mean that melatonin stimulates certain transcription factors, and what type of transcription factor to produce the DOS and the antioxidants? Must act on the genes to express certain mRNA that will produce the DOS.
What we have shown is the mRNA of TNF-alpha of interleukin-1 beta. Yes, those are measurements of mRNA, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes?
Thank you very much for your excellent lectures. I just want to know, based on your experimental studies, what's the doses of the melatonin administration and also the route of administration of melatonin use? That does seem to be very beneficial in terms of insulin resistance.
Yeah. The doses that have been studied here experimentally were 1 milligram and 10 milligrams per kilogram, but these are huge amounts that are due to the small size of the animals. In humans, I am using 40 milligrams of melatonin, even orally, during bedtime, because melatonin is also a chronobiotic and is inducing sleep. So what I am doing to my patients, that I have started to treat them already 1.5 years ago, is to give higher amounts as normally given of melatonin. Melatonin has no problem with side effects. And you can ask your compounding pharmacy to produce just pills with 40 milligrams of melatonin, and the effect is dramatic.
One more question. Thank you for your informative speech, but I would like to know if you would advise melatonin in people who already have established DM type 2?
Yes, because you can recover it to a certain extent. You are, if the patient has reduced secretion of insulin, but not total absence of insulin, what you can measure very easily. You can measure the levels of insulin in plasma, you can measure also the levels of C-peptide in order to be sure if the patient has been already treated with insulin, for example, to separate the endogenous production from the exogenous production or administration. If the patient is still producing insulin, you can recover to a certain extent the possibility of this pancreas to produce more insulin. And since you are on the other side reducing peripheral resistance, what you can do by all means is to reduce the amount of anti-diabetics that you need to give, both oral or parenteral. So I advise to use melatonin also in established type 2 diabetes.
Thank you.
No more questions?